Very nice.
Hello and good afternoon from the Texas Apartment Association's Education Foundation. I'm Blaise Pedalari with Gemstar Construction, and we have an amazing Hints from HR show for you today. We're going to talk about recognition, employee engagement, and how that leads to creating an environment of low turnover and a strong bench of employees. Before we meet our special guests, we have the backbone of this program on, as usual, the angels to my Charlie, Becca Ramadi and Nicole Block. Say hi, ladies.
Hi, I was doing my, there we go. I was doing my little angels thing.
And our guest today, our special guest today, her name rhymes with Margarita, and it
Woo!
goes great on a sunny day with the NRP Group, Sunny Giarritta. Sunny, please introduce yourself. Tell us about NRP.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Sunny Giarritta. I'm the culture ambassador for the NRP Group, and I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas, but I support our property management team nationally. And I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about my background, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I started my career in property management as a part-time leasing agent in college, and I progressed on site all the way up to community manager. And prior to becoming the ambassador for NRP, I was a regional manager for over 20 years. I spend most of my time supporting our regional team and community managers in recruiting our A+ players. And then I also work on great recognition events, engagement events, activities, things to support our teams once we have them hired.
Excellent. So we do want to talk a little bit about recruiting here. So I know a huge part of your job, as you just mentioned, is recruiting and finding these great candidates. Tell us about what you look for in a candidate and how that process begins.
Sure. So at NRP, we've coined a phrase called A+ players. So you're going to always hear me talking about A+ players that come straight from David Heller, the president of our organization. And we feel like this really describes who we are, with this A+ player. We all want to be A+ players. We're looking for A+ players. And I'm asked all the time, Sunny, what is an A+ player? I mean, it's for us, it's part of our DNA, but I've narrowed it down to a couple identifying characteristics. And so I'll share those with you. First of all, I'd like to look for someone who has the ability to take action. So, not someone that needs their to-do list written for them. They're actually coming in the morning or getting their day ready by having their to-do list ready to go for the week, the day, the week. I'm not giving them direction, and they can share that with me in an interview. If I'm asking them, like, tell me how you plan your week or your month. Well, I start by making a to-do list, or I identify, I meet with my regional manager and find out from them what's important, and I prioritize that. So I'm looking for someone who can take action without being directed to do that. I like to look for people, and Becca, this is really great with TAAEF. I like to look for people that have transferable skills. So property management is a great industry to transfer into if you're coming from hospitality, retail, construction. Our on-site teams come from construction, trades where maybe there's some seasonality. Property management has no seasonality. People need places to live 365 days out of the year. So I look for transferable skills. Someone who's worked at Nordstrom selling shoes is going to do a great job demonstrating the features and benefits of, one of my communities, from whether it's an affordable community, a market rate, high-end community. Those are skills that will transfer over. Someone from the restaurant industry understands how to take an order correctly. And so if they're on the phone with a resident taking information about a work order, they're going to know how to correctly gather all of that information about, what we need to do in their home to complete the work order. So transferable skills are really important. And I listen for those and ask about those when I'm interviewing. So if you're looking for a job, think about those transferable skills you might have if you're coming from another industry. I look for people that have a positive outlook. So these are the people whose glass is half full. They say, I can do it, not I might do it, or I hope we'll be able to do it. It's affirmative all the way, right? Like there's no question it's going to get done. And so those, if someone with that quality or that mindset is really, really appealing to me. And so I listen for those clues or cues when I'm talking to people. I'm also looking for people who are genuinely nice, right? So I always say #BeNice. It's kind of a funny little adage that I use, but it's really, really important. We're about the business of providing people with homes, right? Their houses, where they live. And we deal with, work orders, moving, maybe family issues. And so, we just need to be nice to people when we're doing all of this. Many of our residents are struggling right now. They've had negative impact from COVID. They're in a different financial situation. Maybe they're school teachers now when they didn't want to be. We don't know, but we need to be, and we may not always have the right answer or the answer that they want to hear, but we always need to be nice in the way that we address our prospects, our residents, our coworkers. And then finally, I look for someone who has a professional image. So, and this is, by professional image, I'm not necessarily talking about necessarily the look, although that is important, but they're just someone that conveys themselves with confidence. They, you feel comfortable that they understand the product. They know their property. They are confident and proud of where they are, and they present themselves and speak to their clients and their customers in a way that makes our residents and our prospects feel comfortable to live in our communities. And so, for me, those are the top 5. That's what I look for. And it doesn't mean you have to be a leasing agent to embody all of those. Those are just character traits that I think are important.
No, absolutely. And I love that you touched base real quick. And Nicole, I want to ask you a follow-up on this, but
Sure.
I also want to say, a lot of things have changed during COVID. And I want to say, I know we talked a little bit offline, and I want to say it was admirable that you still traveled from state to state, visiting all your properties individually as well, to show them that, you're there for the teams and you want to continue to make sure they have the support to continue to grow. But Nicole, kind of the similar question here. Can you give us a perspective maybe on the job seekers looking to get recruited or being recruited? What does that look like from that end?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we appreciated in visiting with Sunny and NRP's vision is that it is very specific, and it is something that they speak. It's not just, a thought somewhere that people aren't living. It's out, there's an A player section out on their website, and there's, it talks about the referral program, which I know Sunny will go into a little later. But I think as a job seeker, as we've discussed on many previous podcast episodes, is that you want to ensure that, what they're looking for aligns with what you have to offer. And so I think if they want someone who is empowered, right? So there's another word that we've used before. So one of the very first things Sunny said was, hey, I don't need to give you a checklist. These are some of the things that you have your own ideas, and you can forge your own path. So I think when you think about the empowerment, or think about the attitude, or think about what they're looking for, then you ask yourself those questions, just as we've suggested before, so that there's a better alignment, so that there's just more more checks on the box. Again, like she said, not every person's going to have every single one of those, but are they coachable? Do they have that potential to be an A player NRP? I think a job seeker can probably ask themselves those same questions. So, any of the things that we're looking for, I appreciate that they are so thorough in putting it out on their site, so that the job seeker doesn't have to guess either. So they're not coming out there thinking, do I only rely on Glassdoor, or I can't find this? So I would say from the job seeker's perspective, just ensure that it's, that it fits what you're looking for as well, and ask yourself those same questions as we've suggested.
And I love that you talked about the transferable skills, Sunny, because that's something that I think people sort of get caught up in or don't think about. And so talking about how retail relates, or how construction or anything, or just even thinking back as the job seeker, think back on your jobs, previous jobs, and think about the different types of skills you might have used, and then see how they can apply to the apartment industry. I think it's a great activity or exercise for anyone looking for a job to do.
And taking it one step further, I think many of us in the apartment industry already naturally look to hospitality and retail. And so I know we've used those, but we've talked a lot about everything that's out there. Again, so I think sometimes people are in hospitality and retail, they see how it transfers, but I think for you, Sunny, and your company to always be looking at whatever it is they're doing to see how it transfers is really great as well, because I think that, to Becca's point, they don't necessarily think of the, multifamily industry because they don't think it'll transfer, whatever their skill set is.
We have a huge portfolio of affordable housing, and we've had great success with medical, administrative people who are coming from the medical field, or sort of, a lot of the affordable side is very paperwork heavy, right? And so those of my affordable people out there know what I'm talking about. And so, you're right. There are different places you can look, and these transferable skills, can just can really be beneficial. And so we just can't lock ourselves in to, just to one skill. And the other point I wanted to make for our job seekers is, I try to always let people know you're interviewing us. Like, I'm interviewing you, but you're also interviewing us, and it goes both ways. And it's really important for you to make sure that our values, our being whoever that is that you are interviewing with, that the company's values align with your own value, that their work style, the hours of operation, the way, whatever that dress code is that they, that they have on their site, their, whatever their core values are, that you line up with that as well, and that they line up with your core values, because it needs to be a good fit both ways. And so, we are being interviewed as the, as the company in the same way. And so make sure, job seekers, that you are asking those questions that are important to you. Do you celebrate certain holidays, or, what happens if I have a sick child? Like, how is this handled? Those are things that are important for you. Make sure you get those questions on the table early on and in the interview, so that it's not a surprise to you later on.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Sunny, so there's so many ways, so many different fields too that we can recruit from, and we can find our people. But we know in the past too, there's been a lot of referral programs that have been highly successful and effective. But let's talk a little bit just about NRP's referral program and what that looks like. Do you want to share what you guys do differently?
Sure, I can tell you a little. First of all, we had to really refine and define our employee referral program. It was a little gray a couple years ago, and when I would go out on site and visit properties across the nation, I'd say, "You know about our employee referral program, right?" And they'd, "What?" Right. So I collaborated with our HR team, and we really worked to refine it, to put policy and procedure into place. And I think that's the foundation of a really good employee referral program. There has to be structure to it. It can't just be like, hey, send people our way. Like, there needs to be a procedure. For example, one of our procedures is, when someone's applying online, if they were referred, they need to include the name of the employee that referred them, so that we can thank them and recognize them for the referral. So it has to be tied to the initial hire, so that we know that we can thank them for that referral. We reward both the referring employee and the referred employee. So after 90 days, both the person who joined us and the person who referred receive points for our online store. And so it's a recognition of both sides of the table. And then you also want to make sure that you're promoting this more than one time a year. I see so many companies that say, we have an employee referral program, but they don't remind everybody about the benefits of this. So for NRP, we have on our employee we tag team. So we have an employee recognition page where you can use points to buy products on like an Amazon type format. But on that very first landing page, we advertise our employee referral program. And if you click on it, then it passes through to the directions for how to refer an employee. So we're blending the two together, the recognition for the employees, but also the reminder for the referral program. I think it's also important to recognize the referred employees throughout the year, not just maybe once a year, but in a weekly regional managers meeting, or if you have a monthly call, bring the referred employee and the referral on together and say, like, thanks guys, isn't it great that you guys can work together? Tell me how did you find out about this? Or where were you, where did you work together before successfully? And how are you using that to work together now? Statistics show that referred employees are much more productive in the workforce, that there's a higher level of accountability, because they have not only their, whoever they're directly reporting to, but now, the person that brought them onto the team is also holding them accountable,
Sure.
and encouraging them and rooting them on. And so I'm a huge fan of referrals. I just think that it's the right way. I encourage people too to develop their personal network. And so we're doing that right now. I always tell people, hey, find me on Facebook, look for Sunny on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We should be building our social networks, our personal networks, and letting people know, I have a job, or I know someone who needs a job, or I need a job. You're building out your personal network, and don't be afraid to ask your friends, especially you job seekers out there. Don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, do you know anybody that's hiring right now? We all have times where we might want to make a change, and or need to make a change. Maybe your property sold and, you find yourself in a situation you didn't imagine you would be in. Don't be afraid to ask people to refer you to someone that you know. I think those are the great components of a successful referral program, right? So build it out, make sure there's structure, there's reward and recognition, and then, make sure that people know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And as job seekers, don't be afraid to ask your circle and your immediate friends, family, workplace, for those referrals and leads.
Yeah, I think I want to touch base with you in a little bit about more of that recognition too, and some of those awards in the online store. Nicole, can you take us though? Maybe let's take a walk together here. Operationally, okay. What does that look like operationally to put on one of these referral programs, and what do you need to do in order to ensure that it's successful operationally standpoint?
Sure, and I'm sure that in talking with Sunny that they would echo these comments too. But it starts with a plan, right? She made mention that it maybe was gray a couple of years ago. So it's about asking the question, figuring out the plan, what do we want it to look like, and then back into what operational steps we need to do, whether that's budgeting for a third-party recognition software, mm-hmm. or coming up with a mission statement, or having something for what does the referral program look like? What does it feel like? I absolutely love to know that the referring associate as well as the new associate get part of the points, if you will. That's not common, just so you know. In our industry, it's usually I would say it's just one. So I think that's interesting, and I love that dynamic, but it does also continue to link the two. We always talk about turnover, and Sunny talked about some statistics, and they tend, if you're referred, your turnover rate is traditionally lower than the average for your position, because again, you have that skin in the game. You already kind of knew the good, the bad, and the ugly as well, right? Because if you're going to be the referring associate, you're going to let your friend or whomever you're referring to, like, hey, here's the big picture. Here's what I love. Here's some challenges I might have. Like, they're going to have probably a better idea of what to expect. And I think that those expectations carry them through all of the onboarding, all of the times it's tough with, being new and learning everything, because they kind of already had a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. But operationally, again, you need to budget for it. But I would also say, when we were talking to Sunny the other day, is that, leadership and consistency is going to be key. When she realized that when she went out on site, no one could talk about the referral program, that says that we haven't gotten it out there and we're not consistent enough with it. So I think them taking those steps to ensure that you guys are making it part of your huddles or meetings or site visits, whatever it might be, then it's going to be something that is going to live on and on. It won't be, a hyperlink buried in a website somewhere, So I think I think operationally, just we've talked about with other topics on this podcast, is you have to plan for it, potentially budget for it. If there's a rewards incentive program like you guys use NRP, and then execute on it and evaluate it. And it's a circular process, so it doesn't ever end. And I think that'll be a way to make it successful operationally.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm a firm believer too, is, if you refer people, if you bring people into the organization that you trust, you have a relationship with already, you're only going to build a more stronger foundation for success. These types of programs, they only work too if you continue to reinvent them, you pour into them, you listen to everybody, you get the feedback, and then you evolve it to whatever the current situation is in our field. I know we've had a lot of changes over the last couple of years, and I feel like we've done, as an industry, just an amazing job adapting and adapting quickly to it. So I do want to go back to the online store real quick, just because I just want to understand that process a little bit. You earn points as an employee for referral, both the referred employee and the referring employee. What does that online store look like? How does that work?
It's a great program. We implement about the same time as the referral program we were rolling out. It's called Inspire. We use a third-party provider to help service this. And it's an excellent way for peer-to-peer recognition, supervisor to supervisee. So everyone in our organization is awarded a certain amount of points at the beginning of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And it varies. If you're higher up in the organization, you have more people that you would have the opportunity to recognize, so you have more points. But even our groundskeepers are given points every month, so that if their lead maintenance helps them with a project, they can go online. It looks like a Facebook post, like a feed basically. So an online feed, we can select pictures, you can upload pictures, you can type comments, but it's a great, you can recognize groups of people and give points to groups of people. It's an excellent way for peer-to-peer and intra-company recognition. So someone in our accounting department can recognize an on-site team member if they've helped them work something out. If a marketing person came on-site and just helped freshen up the mini model, the manager might send some points to the marketing person to say, hey, thanks for helping us out today. So it's fantastic because every level of our organization has the opportunity to informally recognize someone, and you can do it at any time. And you can do the recognition not just with points, like if you're if you've recognized so many people, you've used all your points, you can still give recognition, which is just a visible recognition out there, that everyone in the whole company sees the scroll going through. It's on our homepage. We have a special page just for it. You can download the app on your phone. So if you're at lunch, you can scroll through and see what's going on. And so it's really fantastic to just see. It's very energizing and can be a lot of fun, and to share those points and those recognize those.
So
those
is there a requirement maybe too for your employees to check in on this? Is there any kind of no? It's just at your leisure. You kind of
just at your leisure and
your recognition when you need to give your recognition. Now, because I know you mentioned before too about giving recognitions not just on an annual event. You want to do this maybe in meetings weekly, maybe monthly. Now, what does that look like? Are those required meetings? Are those company meetings, company recognition? Are they per property?
So we have an annual awards event, and many companies do. We've had sort of an annual awards, and we tend to come over the top with our gatherings. We generally bring our group together once a year in person. Last year, we weren't able to do that because of COVID. This year, we're not able to do the large group because of COVID, but we are hopeful that next year we'll be able to get back together. 4 years ago, 4 years ago, we included not just our community managers, but we started adding our lead maintenance. And so we bring our community manager and our lead maintenance to an educational and awards conference every year. And so we doubled our numbers 4 years ago by bringing our lead maintenance in. And they have just as much impact, if not more, on the bottom line for these properties, need to be recognized and need to be rewarded in the same way. So we have an annual, when we give out some awards during that time. But we also use the Inspire program so that people can give points and recognition every single day. And then we also encourage our leaders at every level to recognize their employees. Sometimes just we use random acts of kindness. So we empower our regionals to say, like, just deliver lunch. Like if you just need to, Uber lunch over to a property or drop off some, I go out and I visit properties across the nation, and really I'm just there to say thank you for the work that they do. I try not to walk in with empty hands. So it might be lunch, it might be cookies, it might be swag, just something with just a simple, just a simple thank you. So we're trying to recognize people all the time, not just once. And Nicole, when we were having our pre-conversation, is this where I can say the swoop and poop, right?
Yeah, that was it last episode or a couple episodes ago, Becca, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. With Mike, with
Tammy Martin. It was Tammy Martin. Yes. Yeah, so yeah, we definitely aren't. We don't do the second one, right, Sunny? We do the first one.
But can you explain the swoop and poop again? Because I think what I'm promoting is only swoop. Right. Try not to always swoop and poop. And so maybe explain what that is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll jump into that. I think that them gathering the leaders on the community too, again, operationally, that's an expense, but it's an investment in your company and your teams. They are the leaders. And also, for instance, lead maintenance or service managers, whatever you guys call them, they also can have their own breakout session and talk about their own set of challenges, and then have people that are in their lane. And I think that's so important because they understand their why so much more, in depth, because they're able to see what everyone else is doing. And maybe someone across the way has the same challenge or the same type of portfolio that you do, but it's right there. So I've worked for companies that have done that, super impactful. So I'm glad to hear the NRP is doing that. But yeah, so one of the things we brought up to Sunny was that swoop and poop. You guys heard that on Tammy Martin's podcast. And that's where as leaders come in, generally they set aside so much time, or maybe they haven't either planned enough time to connect, but they kind of come in, point out all the issues that are on the property, say hey, and then give you a to-do list and out the door we go. And what we were talking about with Sunny was that, sometimes you just need to come out there just to say thank you, or just to say, how can I help you? I think that's impactful. To not come in empty-handed, I think is very important. Whether again, it's swag or cookies, it doesn't always have to be extravagant, but it's just the gesture. But what we had talked about for the operators and suppliers that are potentially looking to try this is be patient. If you don't have that culture just yet, it might take 6 or 7 visits before they're like worried that the swoop and poop is coming, right? Or they're like, okay, Sunny just said, good job on my numbers, but because they know, operators, they know, like, oh man, but I'm down on this, right? But Sunny's not going to mention that, because Sunny's going to say, you're crushing this, way to go, you're appreciated, thank you so much, and you're appreciated for X, not just something random, but remember that it takes time. So you have to build that credibility with your team, especially if you're doing a culture shift. So that's what we were talking about a little bit, Sunny and I, is that let's just swoop a little bit. Let's just come in and swoop. None of that second half. Save that for a different conversation.
Yeah, accountability is. Oh, go ahead, Becca.
I was just going to say, referring back to another episode, I think these points and giving recognition to your colleagues reminds me a lot of when we talked to Mike Rust about giving permission to do good. Yep. And so I think that when you see someone else getting recognition for doing something above and beyond or out of the extraordinary, that makes you want to do it too in a lot of ways. And that can only benefit the communities and the residents and your properties. And so I just think that's a great thing to promote and to share.
I do want to add too that that Mike Rust episode, we did mention the swoop and poop on that episode too. It's been
this is going to go viral. Oh my gosh, Tammy, I'm so sorry. And it's totally my fault, because I absolutely said that to her, just so you know, Sunny. Right, she was my regional manager and I was one of her managers. So I'm the one that.
Well, and I've got here's a tool that maybe the regional managers can use. I know we've got a big, kind of a larger audience. And so right now I just want to talk to those that are in charge, like the regional manager, a community manager, a vice president. One of the things that I'm training right now, or counseling, or when I'm meeting with our leaders and coaching on is, the 10-60 rule. So for every hour of meeting that you're going to have with them, where you're going to do some accountability, right? Like we do still have to have those tough meetings, like occupancy needs, we need to get 3 points in 3 weeks, or we need, like, those meetings still have to happen. I'm not saying don't do those meetings, but at the same time, take 10 minutes for every hour that you're having that conversation, and just have an icebreaker. How's your day? Like, what's going on? What is a hobby that you do? Like, how is your garden? Did you go fishing this weekend? Like, do you even know what that person does when they're not sitting across the desk from you, or across the video conference from you? Like, do you know anything about them? If you don't, shame on you. Like, shame on you, figure it out fast. So that's my challenge to our leaders is, take 10 minutes for every 1 hour that you're spending with your teams, and really dig in a little bit, get to know them. You don't have to dive deep into their personal life, but you need to know something about what makes them.
You know what to say? How did that medical exam go?
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you a secret too. This works for me. When I ask those questions, then I'm much better at the gifting that I do. People call me the gift whisperer at my company. They're like, how did you know?
You just ask. Yeah, right. And listen.
It's because I know what they, I know what they like to do, or I know where their heart is when it's not at their, at their desk or on their computer. And 100%. So it really helps when you can connect the dots for someone and show them something very personal and meaningful to them. So 10 minutes for every 60 minutes. If you leave with nothing else, leaders, just be hashtag be nice. Hashtag.
That's a good end.
Thank you so much. I think we have all learned a little bit more about how to recognize and how to recruit a little bit. I think you need to coin a signature drink called the Sunny Giarritta.
Right,
Sunny Giarritta.
We need to drink that poolside somewhere on a tropical island. Thank you so much from the NRP Group. You fantastic, Nicole Block. I'm going to pass it over to Becca with some housekeeping items. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you for another great show.
Well, great. Thanks, Blaze. Thanks, Nicole. And Sunny, thank you so much. So starting in May, we have some changes coming up for Hints from HR. We are going to go to a monthly format. Our next show will be May 12th. We will be the second Wednesday of the month. and we'll make sure that you know when that is. So thank you, Blaze and Nicole. I've kept you way too busy for way too long, so we're gonna give you a little bit of a break. We're also hopefully coming in May, gonna launch a new Facebook Live series called How to Speak Maintenance.
Love
And
it.
this is also going to be a monthly series. We'll be talking about the importance of a strong relationship between the office and maintenance staff, and how understanding both sides of the work will lead to all involved working better together and smarter and having more fun together. And that's a really important piece of it as well. So be on the lookout for announcements about that, and we will see you all soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks again,
Thank
Sunny.
you.
Appreciate you.